Clerk Sechrist could call the roll.
Right. Trustee Anthony.
Present.
Trustee Foster.
Good evening.
Trustee Graham Hudek.
Good evening.
The record reflect that Clerk Segrist is in attendance, Treasurer Slavens,
Good evening.
Trustee Snyderman,
Hello, everyone.
and Supervisor Williams.
Hello. Call for the adoption, or motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have one set of minutes from November 14th. Call for a motion to approve the minutes of November 14th, 2017 meeting.
So
Right.
moved.
Support.
Those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We have a recognition this evening. Scott, could you join me at the podium? Or Lieutenant Houston, that is, could you join me?
Okay.
Good, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Okay. This evening, we're going to read a resolution recognizing Police Lieutenant Scott Houston upon his retirement. Whereas Scott Houston, hired on the Canton Police Department in 1990, was promoted to the rank of sergeant in 2006 and lieutenant in 2013, and whereas Scott's dedication to providing quality police service to the Canton community has been evident throughout his 28-year career, and whereas over the years Scott has served in several prominent special assignments within the department, including detective, motor officer, range instructor, field officer training, and whereas in his role as lieutenant, Scott successfully managed, trained, and mentored his platoon consisting of sergeants, patrol officers, PSSOs, and whereas, due to his compassion, knowledge, leadership, and commitment to excellence, Scott retires, leaving an exceptional police department in place. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, upon recommendation of the Canton Director of Public Safety, does hereby recognize Scott for his commendable contribution to the Canton community and to the Canton Department of Public Safety. Scott, thank you.
Sure. That's my dad, Malcolm, my mother-in-law, Sue, Abby, Olivia, Amy, Eliza, Brogan, and Callum.
Hi, guys.
I was also busy at home.
How is it having Dad at home more often now? Spending more time with you? You like
Good.
it? Good so far? Excellent.
So far.
Would you like to say?
No, I'd just like to say, you know, I guess 27 years being here. I started when we didn't even have an HR. Nancy Fogarty actually walked me to the old township hall where there was a fountain. I got sworn in by Nancy. I was blessed to have been hired here. I thank every board that has been in place and that has pretty much guided the township to where it's at right now, as well as all of the directors and all of my bosses. So I couldn't have asked for a better place to work. I walk out thinking and knowing it's in great hands with you people. It's in great hands with Josh. It's a great police department, and I was fortunate. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. If I may, I'd like to call for a motion to formally have the resolution written into the formal record.
So moved.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Scott. All right. If you guys like to take off, now would be a good time to. Thank you.
Whole family.
Bye, guys. All right, now would be the time in our agenda for citizens' non-agenda item comments. Any public comments for any items that are not on the agenda, now would be the time to have that conversation. Go ahead, George, please. And then after Mr. Miller's completed, Treasurer Slavens has a resolution she'd like to read into the record as well. So, good
George
evening.
Miller, I'd like to know what the plans are for, there's been a water main break on Sheldon Road between Ford Road and Palmer. And they tore up the road there, they had to and block it off. What's gonna be done to replace it so there's not a bump in the road there? Same way out on Getty's Road by Beck Road, from Beck to Ridge in that area. Also on Sheldon Road, I think it's the second time in the last couple, 3 years, there's been a water main break in between Sheldon Estates and Palmer Road there. There's a ditch there. I drive by it quite often, live in the neighborhood. That was backfilled. There's a pipe there to drain that ditch out at north end. They've backfilled that. The pipe doesn't show anymore. I'd like to know where the ditch is going to drain to now. There's no sewer cap there around that area where it would drain to. The water sits there. It was draining from south to north down that way. Same way down there at the intersection of Cherry Hill and Palmer Road. That pipe has been plugged up. In fact, the county never put it in right, or the contractor. It's too small a pipe. That county told me that one time when they come out. Like, that's another reason, like I asked some of these contractors that are doing repair work, why they have a free hand on things. That's just an example right there, that pipe years ago. It was never put in right.
Okay, where are the two pipe locations again?
They're on the east side of Sheldon Road, from, like I said, from Palmer Road going north on the east side. That was backfilled. There was a water main break there. It's been there this last time they backfilled it, covered the pipe up. And the other one down at the Cherry Hill and Sheldon, that's been plugged for a long time. It's too small a pipe, the county said, in fact. It was never put in right. I don't know why it didn't, how it ever got inspected.
So in terms of those two drains, I do want to look into it, but in terms of the other, all contractors are consistent with the letter that we provided you tonight on the other
Well,
project.
Let's clarify that a little bit, maybe, possibly. That water main, it was done on Briarfield Street. You guys picked the contractor, didn't you? You leased the work out to him. It seems like you would be responsible for some of that besides the county. It's your contractor you picked, the township. It wasn't the county. You understand what I'm saying? So he should be responsible, and you guys should be, for picking the contractor and putting it in the clause possibly that he's not going to share. All the expansion joints are up. They've sheared them off 1.5 inches down there. Tore up the curbs on the side. I'd be glad to show you if you want to meet some of the residents down there that's complained. There's supposed to be a 1-inch expansion strip between the curb and the driveway. Some of that's not done. It's a 1/2 inch. Now, these guys seem to write their own book, and they're $1 million outfit.
Thank you, George. Okay. Tim, we'll circle back on the ditches next week or so. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit of a segue in terms of seeing, is there any additional public comment? Please, sir.
I have one observation. It's a public safety thing. If you go to any corner along Michigan Avenue, you find there's a lot of beggars that are out there. I understand that these guys have got a tough time, but I'm worried about somebody reaching out and getting hit by a car. I don't know what can be done about it. It's just, it seems that we're waiting for an accident to happen. So,
If you see somebody panhandling any place other than on the expressway ramps, please call public safety immediately.
well, you can go any day of the week, and there's a guy that says, suffering cancer victim, anything helps, God bless, and he's smoking a cigarette.
Okay, but this is on the expressway ramp?
No, this is on the corner of Getty's and Sheldon Road.
Getty's in Sheldon.
He's there, I don't know what his contract calls for as far as hours he's got to work, but,
Right.
and you know, it's getting to be more and more, And like I said, winter's coming, there's going to be ice. If somebody slips, so.
Thank you. That's a new one for me. Yep. Handling. Is there any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing none. Diane, do you have a resolution you'd like to have read into the record?
I do. I have a resolution. Canton Township had the honor to join Gallimore Elementary School, along with a lot of other state and local officials. Superintendent Monica Merritt and the great Gallimore principal, Amy Bell, was there. With teachers, support staff, students, and parents. They were celebrating, they were one of 13 schools in Michigan to be named 2017 National Blue Ribbon School. So it's quite an honor, and it was a wonderful program, and it ended with the students flying the flag of the blue ribbon. And so I'd like to put this into the records, Canton Township Resolution recognizing Gallimore Elementary School. Whereas the National Blue Ribbon Schools program recognizes public and private elementary, middle, and high school where students perform at exceptional levels or where significant improvements are made in academic achievement of students, and whereas National Blue Ribbon Schools designation by the United States Department of Education has become a symbol of excellence and quality, recognized and revered in communities across the country. Since its establishment, Gallimore Elementary has held high expectations of academic excellence and provides support to help all students achieve. And whereas the commitment and focus has produced outstanding results, including an overall top ranking of schools on the statewide assessment, and whereas Gallimore Elementary School is one of 13 Michigan schools and 342 schools in the nation named a 2017 National Blue Ribbon School. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Canton Township Board of Trustees does hereby commend the Plymouth-Canton Community School Board of Education, Monica Merritt, Superintendent, Amy Bell, Principal, the faculty, staff, students, and the parents of Gallimore Elementary School on the occasion of Gallimore Elementary School recognition as a blue ribbon school.
Thank you. Okay, would call for a formal motion to have this resolution entered into the record.
So moved. Second.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Diane. All right. Okay. We've got an interesting agenda tonight. A lot of different things happening here. Now we'd like to have a presentation from, go ahead.
Before we,
please.
I'd like to make a motion that we pay the bills.
Oh, that's an excellent idea. The vendors would appreciate that. All right, those in favor of paying the bills as,
I'll second the motion.
those in favor of paying the bills, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Once again, we can pay the bills. The vendors will be happy. Thank you, Diane, for slowing me down. Now we'd like to have a presentation this evening from College for Creative Studies, which it's a satellite program that's going to be located at the Park facility in the city of Plymouth. We have with us Mr. Don Soinen.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Thanks
sir.
for inviting me. I'm Don Soinen. I'm president of Park, the Plymouth Arts and Recreation Complex in Plymouth. The College for Creative Studies is a nonprofit private college with a main campus in Detroit. With a world-class faculty and unsurpassed facilities, CCS is a major supplier of talent in numerous industries such as transportation, film and animation, advertising and communications, consumer electronics, athletic apparel, and many more. Founded in 1906, CCS enrolls over 1,400 students, offering bachelor's and master's degrees in fine arts. It's recognized as one of the 3 top design schools in the nation, and their graduates are in virtually every automotive design studio in the world, and they have more graduates in automotive design than any other college in the world. They are a very prestigious institution, and they also will contribute a tremendous amount to our community, to Plymouth and Canton, to our school district. They're very active and very engaged in the community. So securing the only CCS site outside of Detroit since 1906, I think is a really big deal for Plymouth and Canton. And they're working very closely with the school district as well. So their primary target market really is Plymouth Canton Community Schools. And they've developed a very nice relationship with the school district in working with some of these spectacular kids. And of course, we're very proud to have them at Park. They are a very prestigious organization for us to have at Park. They've taken some significant space there and just done a magnificent job of preparing that space. They started classes the 1st October. So it's with great pleasure I want to introduce to you Jane Stewart. Jane is the Director of Pre-College and Continuing Studies for CCS and has been really the prime mover in making this all happen. Jane?
Welcome, Jane. Tonight, at least we're keeping the power on for you.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me back. I managed to get lost on the way here, and it's my second time here. Yeah. Anyways, I'd like to tell everyone about College for Creative Studies. We are located in the Detroit area. We have 2 buildings. We have 2 campuses. One is right behind the Detroit Institute of Arts, and the other one is the Taubman Center, which was formerly the Argonaut Design Center of General Motors back in the day, and they donated the building to us. So that's where most of our design classes are based, out of the Taubman Center, which is on the right, and the Ford campus over on the left. So as Don mentioned, we're ranked number 3 design school in the country, and that's just based on who's employed in their field after graduation. So we have a very strong career-based focus at our school. And as he mentioned, there are more automotive designers from CCS than any other school. So we were asked, how would we help Wayne County, Western Wayne County specifically, teens connect to auto jobs or jobs in the auto industry? What would we do to help out teens? And I am Director of Pre-College Continuing Studies, which means basically I do youth and teen programs. And this is what we came up with here. The thought is that we're just far enough away. CCS is downtown, and if you are 16 years old and your dream is to become an automotive designer, it's a little hair-raising for your parent to give you the keys and have you drive off when you're just learning. And also traffic can be something to contend with. So we're just far enough away. So our solution was to, through the Margaret Dunning Foundation. Do you know Margaret Dunning? She lived to be 103, maybe perhaps 4, 104. She loved her Packard and she loved cars. So a foundation in her name came to us, what would you do to help teens learn about careers in the auto industry? And what we said is what we want to do is bring CCS to Plymouth Canton area. And at the time, we didn't even know that Margaret Dunning, or as I came up with this plan, I didn't know who the funder was. I just said, boy, we really want to be out here. This is what we need to do, is get to come to them. And so then we came into the park. There we are. We're on the 3rd floor. We have 3 classrooms. And in those 3 classrooms, we have what we call a foundation classroom with easels and benches. We could do our art classes. We have a computer lab, and then we also have what we call a messy studio, which is basically a floor that can be cleaned up after the clay modeling program happens. So there are special bonuses for people from Canton, Plymouth, Northville, from this general area. One of them is for teenagers. They get $100 off of each of our classes that they take. So if they take an animation class or a product design class, today's Tuesday, I think there's a photography class going on. They can take $100 off the cost of the class, and the Margaret Dunning Foundation pays for it. We are also going to start offering dual enrollment in January. So if a student is currently enrolled in high school, they can go after school and take another class, and they can start earning college credits while they're still in high school. So imagine getting a $4,100 class for $300. It's subsidized by the Dunning Foundation. It also means that the school district doesn't have to take any money out of their pockets. It comes right from the Dunning Foundation. So it's very beneficial. Mondays and Wednesdays going to be foundation drawing one day. And one more thing is there are 10 $2,000 scholarships available for people from Plymouth, Canton, North Hill, from the western Wayne County, and this is the target area. This is a program where students come in for 3 weeks. They earn college credit, they try out college, they can live on campus, or they can be a commuter. Last year, there was a young man, he was a sophomore, he was between a sophomore and junior year from Canton, and his dream was to be an automotive designer. His name is Joseph Almeida, and he went off and he'd never drawn before, and he was a little worried that he might not do okay in the class because he hadn't had art classes before. But he came in and his skill level went from here up to here, and now he's taking one of the classes on Saturdays. The first six weeks, they were designing their dream car, and the teacher said, okay, we're gonna draw Plymouth and Plymouth. So, and then now he's going on and creating a clay model of his dream car for year 2030, I think, Plymouth. So anyways, he did this last summer. He's now sophomore, junior, and he can do it again, you know, and again, and by the time he's going to be way up there with his ability to get in for scholarships especially, and to pursue his career in auto design. We've also brought some CCS speakers out to the park. The guy on the left is Tim Flattery. He's known for drawing and creating the first Batmobile. He's a CCS grad, and he's also the chair of the entertainment arts. He's a concept artist, so he's worked on films like Hunger Games and some Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. He's done the Avengers movies recently, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was his most recent film. It just came out. And I think I don't know where the Avengers, he just recently worked on Avengers. I don't know when it's been released. We also plan on doing some teacher training. So we're going to bring in teachers from Plymouth Canton schools, from Livonia schools, and give a little extra training. Oftentimes art and design, professional development isn't included. They do general teaching professional development, but art and design, there are new design techniques and new ways of thinking that they may perhaps not have been brought up in. We are also offering continuing education classes. So we have classes, if anyone's over the age of 16, they can take an adult class. And we have youth classes. We are actually going to offer spring break. We're going to have 3 classrooms filled with something to do during spring break. So those families that aren't going out of town, they can have somewhere for their kids to go that's safe and engaging. We're going to be doing drawing, computer animation, and fashion design and sewing. Yeah, okay, let's see if there's, oh, and that's my presentation. I wanted to make it short and sweet. Any questions?
Emery?
Your college credits, they can earn college credits to which college? To the main campus then, if they want to continue, or?
Excellent question. If they earn 3 college credits, they are prerequisites at CCS, absolutely. But they're also in transcripts. They're in college transcript form, and they can transfer to any college or university of their choice as an elective. If they go to a different art and design college, say one of our competitors, they'll take our syllabus and their syllabus and they'll line them up next to each other. So Foundation Drawing 1 probably has an equivalent of a foundation elementary drawing class at, say, University of Michigan or any other College of Art and Design.
Do you have any relationships with Lawrence Tech?
I'm sorry?
Lawrence Technological University?
We-
They'd be a competitor, but there could be feeders back and forth
Yeah,
with your
we
programs.
really don't. They do have a competitive auto design thing.
Well, sure.
Yes, yeah. But I would say that CCS is the way to go.
I'm looking forward to coming over and seeing the facility in
Perfect,
Plymouth
thank you.
in the future. Go ahead, Steve. Yeah?
I've seen your facility at Park, and it's very impressive. The question I had was, is there an application process for some of the 4-credit classes, or is there a certain level of previous study that you have to get in?
Excellent question. The question is there prerequisites to get into our classes, and is there an application process? There is an application process for our credit-bearing courses to be a dual enrollment. We have a sort of a check. We want to make sure that students aren't getting in over their head, because there's quite a bit of homework. For our continuing education classes, it's an application. It's more of a registration process of getting online. If someone were interested in trying out for dual enrollment, for example, or filling out an application for the Dunning Foundation scholarship to the pre-college summer experience, they could go online to collegeforcreativestudies.edu and look under academics. All right.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, I appreciate it.
Okay, now we're going to move into a public hearing. Do we have a motion to open? Is this one or two motions, sir?
3 total motions.
Motions, okay.
So the first, Mr. Supervisor, I move to open the public hearing on the adoption of the fiscal year 2018 budget.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This is a public hearing adoption fiscal year 2018 budget. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow the public comments regarding the proposed 2018 budget. The initial proposed 2018 budget was presented to the Township Board during a study session held on February 21st, 2017. Tonight, the Finance Department is requesting that the Township Board of Trustees adopt the proposed budget. State law requires that the township operating on a calendar year budget cycle hold public hearings on proposed budgets no later than December 15th, and that the township adopts proposed budgets no later than December 31st of a given year. Copies of the proposed 2018 budgets are available at Township Clerk's office as well as the Finance Department. Is there any board discussion? We've gone through this, it's been presented, a couple different levels. If everybody is comfortable, our next motion.
Is there a public comment, or?
Oh, yes, we are having a public comment, guys. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Okay, seeing none.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Those in favor of closing public hearings, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Final motion.
Whereas Act 359 of 1947, the Charter Township Act, requires that the annual budget be adopted by resolution, and whereas pursuant to MCLA 141.412 and .413, notice of a public hearing on the proposed 2018 budget was published in a newspaper of general circulation on November 16, 2017, and a public hearing on the proposed budget was held on November 28, 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that estimated total revenues and expenditures for the 2018 fiscal year are hereby approved on a fund level basis, with the totals of the funds are as listed in your board packet. And be it further resolved that the township supervisor has the authority to approve budget adjustments between departments based upon recommendation by the appropriate department director and the finance and budget director in accordance with the adopted policies. And be it further resolved that the Charter Township of Canton Board adopts the 2018 budget for the various funds on a fund level. Township officials responsible for the expenditures authorized in the budget may expend township funds up to, but not to exceed, the total appropriation authorized for each fund. Be it further resolved, there shall not be any new positions created that shall result in an increase in employment headcount within a department or division without prior township board approval. Be it further resolved, the township supervisor has the authority to fill existing vacant and budgeted positions and reclassified positions based upon the recommendation by the appropriate department director and the finance and budget director. And finally, be it further resolved that claims against the township shall be approved by the Charter Township of Canton Board prior to being paid. The township clerk and the township treasurer, may authorize payment of certain claims prior to approval by the township board to avoid late penalties, service charges, and interest for example, utilities and payroll, in accordance with approved salaries and hourly rates adopted by the Township Board. The Township Board shall receive a list of those claims paid prior to approval for approval at the next board meeting.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. If Clerk Segrist he just read a mouthful there. Are
Okay.
you prepared to lead us through the consent calendar, sir?
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that the board adopt the consent calendar as written with item C1, consider second reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 90 of the Canton Code of Ordinances, Section 90 through 93, the Cherry Hill Historic District, by clarifying the parcel identification number of properties identified as contributing to the districts and to attach a map of the district as referenced in the ordinance. Item C2, consider 2018 meeting dates for the Commission for Culture, Arts, and Heritage. C3, consider 2018 meeting dates for the Historic District Commission. C4, reappointment to the Building Board of Appeals. C5, Planning Commission reappointments. C6, Planning Commission appointment. C7, Planning Commission alternate appointment. And finally, C8, consider 2018 Planning Commission meeting dates.
Second?
In favor of the consent calendar as presented, please state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That moves us on now into the general calendar. Our first item is item G1, consider approval of preliminary plan development for Bickford of Canton Senior Living Facility.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the following resolution. Whereas the project sponsor has requested approval of a preliminary plan development for the Bickford of Canton Senior Living Facility located on the west side of Canton Center Road between Ford and Hanford Roads, and whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the conceptual development plan and draft development agreement, made a recommendation to approve the request as it meets this criteria for a planned development, fulfills the identified need, and results in indefinite benefits to the community. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan does hereby approve the request for a preliminary plan development for the Bickford of Canton Senior Living Facility proposed on the north 3.67 acres, with a tax parcel listed, subject to any and all applicable state and local development regulations.
Second?
In summary, this item was originally heard by the Planning Commission on July 10th, 2017 as a minor plan development that consisted of 38,000 square foot, 60-unit assisted living facility on the 3.45 acres as shown. The project sponsors have revised the plan, so it's now 40,700 square feet and 64 units on the 3.67 acres. Since the project is over 40,000 square foot, is now considered a major PDD, and this needs to be reheard as a preliminary plan development. The assisted living use will provide transition from with and commercial uses on Canton Center to single-family neighborhoods to the west, which is less intense with what could be developed there under permitted commercial usages in the C2 district. Are there any board questions or comments? We do have representatives here from Bickford with us this evening. Mr. Eby's in the back.
I just had a question.
Yes, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I didn't see any preliminary drawings or anything. I didn't miss them, right? Oh, okay. I see. That's a courtyard in the center, I guess. That's how I'm looking at that. The white is the building.
Yeah, what's depicted here, this is Canton Center Road. The building is kind of square-shaped with another T off the southwest end here, and then there's two courtyards in the middle of those two respective areas. There's a road that wraps around the building, and then parking generally here on the south side and the Canton Center frontage side of the facility. I do apologize also, Mr. Eby asked me at the beginning of the meeting whether or not I had received his PowerPoint, and I did not before. But he does have some hard, or at least a hard copy, if you wanted to take a quick look at a few of the renderings that are included in the PowerPoint. Those are
And just
color.
forward those after the meeting.
Maybe hand them to Anne Marie, and then she'll take a glance at and pass them down.
So the, okay.
So this is preliminary
Yeah.
plan development, conceptual sort of stuff, the first stage in getting through the development process for a major PDD.
Director Foss, the other question I had was, so this is on Canton Center Road to the north of Mabin, and we're now adding on Mabin, the child care center coming in. And a few years ago, when we approved that, I thought the child care center was going to have access to Ford Road, but it doesn't appear to. And so is this going to be a real major bottleneck at Mabin and Canton Center?
Yeah, so the child care facility on Ford Road is behind schedule with their improvements with MDOT, and that would be to have their access out onto Ford Road, generally across from Bell Tire. And we've had several meetings with the developer and MDOT regarding that work. That work has now finally been permitted, and it should be starting pretty soon. The access from the daycare center out to Mabin is the secondary access for emergency
I thought I
purposes
remembered
only.
that, but it looked like it was almost ready to open.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this facility's a good, I'm just ballparking it, but probably, 700-800 feet north.
Yeah.
The south part of this is 700-800 feet north of Mabin.
And I don't think this facility will have that morning, afternoon traffic that a daycare center will, but when it does, and people coming out of your facility will be turning right most likely on Canton Center very, very often, and that already backs up some past Mabin, so I know that could really make Mabin a difficult area, but if we're getting that Ford Road access, I'm fine, that's great.
And they did do a traffic analysis for this project as is required, and they found no significant impacts to the traffic, the existing traffic on Canton Center Road.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just, I can't, where's the stormwater detention going to be going? I was having a hard time figuring it out based on the maps.
It's going to be an underground storage system. That's one of the photographs that I believe is in Mr. Eby's package. See some large diameter plastic pipes. So it'll be underground detention, then release to the drain to the south. And I guess the one that follows this western property line here. There's a large drain serving the neighborhood to the west.
Sunflower.
Sunflower, sorry. Yeah.
Like a big old French drain, a really big French drain.
Really big pipes that retain the water and then release it at what we call the pre-development rate, the rate that exists on the site today or less.
There's probably, I assume that there's another step for the county to get involved somewhere along within
Oh, yeah.
further planning.
Yeah, they still have to go through all their county and state required permits for the project, and then also go through all our permitting and review process.
Go ahead, Emery.
We had talked about this before, and we just reaffirmed at the planning commission, even though they're adding four more rooms, I think it is, that we were going to make sure that the transportation stayed so we don't burden the Canton Transportation Department for seniors, but also that they're going to keep 25%, which is the minimum requirement of open space, right? So maybe we can try to encourage more if you find some room for that also. Okay, thanks.
Okay, seeing no further questions, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to item G2, consider approval of preliminary plan development for Wellington on the Willow.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the resolution as follows. Whereas the project sponsor has requested approval of a preliminary plan development for Wellington on the Willow, located on the east side of Lots Road and south of Ford Road. And whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the conceptual development plan and draft development agreement, made a recommendation to approve the request as it meets the criteria for a plan development, fulfills an identified need, and results in definite benefits to the community. And whereas the preliminary planned development is also consistent with the statement of conditions and conceptual plan approved as part of the conditional rezoning of the property to R6 single-family attached residential in November of 2016. Now therefore be it resolved, the Canton Board of Trustees, the Charter Township of Canton, the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan, does hereby approve the request for a preliminary planned development for Wellington on the Willow, proposed on the tax parcels listed as proposed, subject to any and all applicable state and local development regulations.
Second.
In addition to what Clerk Segrist has stated, the statement of conditions included in a conceptual plan for a maximum of 282 apartments on the 40 acres of land included in this project less than a maximum density permitted by comprehensive plan and allowed for in the R6 zoning district. The offer of conditions also required approval of planned development district and restricted future development by prohibiting many uses that could otherwise be considered R6 district. The proposed preliminary PDD conceptual plan includes 282 units with 4 distinct attached residential building types, which provide a transition to single-family uses located to the east and west land. Over 56% of the site will be preserved in open space, and most of the wooded area in the southern portion of the site will be placed into a conservation easement. A clubhouse facility with pool, walking trails are also amenities proposed within the community. All the existing natural wooded areas will be preserved via conservation easements with the state of Michigan. Due to the nature of the project, they will be utilizing private roads, thus they have chosen not to connect or extend to the public roads serving the single-family development in Westland. Are there any board comments or questions? Board representatives, it looks like we've got a good-sized group of representatives here this evening. Yeah, go ahead. Diane.
Question, maybe Tim can help out. Where, I see you can go in and out of it on Lots Road. Is that the only, to enter in?
Yeah, they're using a divided kind of boulevard entrance here off of Lots Road.
Okay.
And then a loop road that kind of works its way around to the east side, north side, and then back to the boulevard. And then, as you can see, another kind of smaller loop here for these multi-story units that are going to be built up along the west side of the project. The original plan, as was in the write-up that Jeff prepared, had talked about a connection here, and as you can see, potentially connections here and here into the city of Westland. But as was stated, those are public roads in the city of Westland. These roads are going to be private, and it was really in, I think, both parties' interest to not have those connected for, liability and other reasons.
So is the boulevard concept mean we consider that 2 accesses?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to provide any other one.
That's correct.
So I remember approving this last year, the old board did, and I think these drawings look exactly the same as they did that was proposed last year. Is that true? Is this?
I maybe defer to these guys if they want to talk about any changes that were made since they had previously submitted.
Because there was some question as to whether that concept a year ago would be what was going to be delivered.
Yeah,
right?
the other thing too is when it was discussed last time, we were here talking about the conditional rezoning.
Right.
And, sometimes with the conditional rezonings, you have a lot of level of detail, which was the case in BWE East's application. Sometimes you have very little detail. It really depends on the applicant and what their kind of, way of doing things is.
So is this basically you're proposing to build what was given to us a year ago? I mean, I liked it a year ago, so.
Great, thank you. Yes, Mark Abernathy with Alexander Bogarts, the architects and the planners for the project, representing BW. Yes, it's basically the same plan, although it's gone from the conceptual to a more detailed level plan. We've had a tremendous amount of work with DEQ, and we wanted to get the plan on CAD and more locked in because of the processing with that, much further detailing in terms of engineering studies, that type of thing. And I did want to elaborate in terms of access to the site. We do have the boulevard, as Tim mentioned, but we've also spent a lot of time talking to emergency services, fire, and we have an emergency access down at the south end of the site. Right there. So they'll be able to get in not only from the boulevard, but down at that south end if there's some type of blockage on that boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
What is the distance from the center of your facility, say, out to Ford Road? Out the distance from the center of your facility back out to Ford Road? Because I can see residents here wanting to walk to go to dinner or shopping or the movies from your facility. I don't know. That's kind of a walkable little community there.
Yeah, well,
that we're
that's
creating.
the way we designed it. We designed it with all kinds of walks, nature trails. We purposefully put a lot of the parking either under the building in our loft buildings, which are unique to the community, as well as on the back side of our preserve buildings, the townhouse, so that you're looking at more architecture as opposed to garages. So it is set up to be walkable. It's all linked to the main walkway along Lots Road, so you can circulate throughout the facility up to the clubhouse. You can go back into the nature trails, the wood areas. You can go up along the back side of the buildings and view the detention areas, and they all link up to the clubhouse. So it's very pedestrian friendly, very walkable, and that's why we designed it that way.
Relatively short distance to shopping and entertainment, which we're going to have a little micro downtown there with your facility. Yeah. Go ahead.
Very excited about the project.
So I noticed there's a nature area kind of north of the Willow Creek as well at the top, and then you talked about a conservation easement in the south.
Right.
Are they both easements, and I'm not as familiar with what that, what that means. Can you help explain that to me a little bit?
My understanding is that the state, they'll be in conservation easements controlled by the state. And obviously, the paths that are going through it, those types of things all have to be approved by DEQ as well as the state.
Is that a part of some type of like wetland mitigation or agreement or something like that? Yeah? And then, so is that a nature trail right there?
Yes.
Okay, and the open areas, are those by pre-existing, or are they intentional, or?
The open areas that are shown, the
Yeah.
lighter areas that are in there, yeah, some of those are probably open areas in the woodlot areas.
All right. Will there be any lighting along that trail at all?
I don't know that there's going to be any lighting in there. We haven't really planned that.
Sure.
We are talking about some street lighting down along the main boulevard. All of the units will have lights at the houses, garages, all on photocell, but we haven't really discussed at this point in time having any lighting back there.
Any further? Go ahead, Anne Marie.
So when we had looked at it the other day, it was nice because it's a nice facility because of the different types of housing it has in it, and because it will probably be all rental, you're planning at this time, a lot of them will be ADA compliant. And also, so what was nice is that as they said, it transitions to single-family housing in the back. And I think the traffic team also said that pulling in, you didn't see the need for a light at this time. They would basically be able to still use that middle turn lane, so. Yeah, it looks good. And there was also a suggestion to, like you said, with a walkable community, have maybe see about even getting some smaller businesses in there for jobs that people could walk to, so. It'd be a nice community.
Clarify, we call these condos for lease, and we did a very extensive market analysis, fiscal analysis, and we're really going to look at it what the market demands. If these are set up with enclaves, if people want to buy and the market is there to buy, these are such that they can buy. So it's really going to be market driven. What we're looking at is what's known as middle housing, missing middle housing. We have a wide range of units from 750 square feet up to almost 1,900 square feet. So there's a lot of product, and it's going to fit that. It's going to be a great segment of meeting that type of diversity, all different types of units.
Roads, Tim, eventually end up connected? Oh, I'm sorry. No, sorry. For I mean, I know that we don't connect the roads in the back, but at some point, if they want to connect them and exit out those roads, that can be done, right? Is that correct?
I think there's an apartment building in the way.
You mean over here at the east end of the site? Pretty much unlikely, certainly there, like you say, there's a building in the way at this end, and I think it's likewise at the south end here. So the answer to that's
Proposing to
no.
buffer along that end and keep these private, keep it a private development.
The county, just by way of reference too, the county really kind of discourages, if not, does not allow connections between private roads and public roads. And we've fought that fight, in a few other circumstances in the community, which I know Mr. Hirth is familiar with. So, generally, the county's policy has been that they don't want to see public and private roads connected to one another.
Seeing no further comments, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Mhm. Item G3. Consider approval of bid award for pump replacement at Summit on the Park.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to award the bid for the pump replacement at the Summit on the Park to Jet Pump and Valve at 4770 Pontiac Lake Road in Waterford, Michigan at 48328 in the amount of $32,147 to be paid from the account listed, Community Improvement Fund, Capital Outlay in Buildings and Improvements.
Support.
Okay, in November 2017, bids were solicited for replacement and installation of the Summit on the Park pool water discharge pump system. The following companies submitted bids, and they ranged in the neighborhood of $32,000 up to $58,000. The lowest bid was Jet Pump, and that's who we're going to buy this from. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Hohenberger? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G4. Cleaning up the books here, consider request to increase blanket purchase order for the police department.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve increasing the blanket purchase order issued to Northeastern Uniforms by $8,000 to accommodate the police department's uniform purchases through the remainder of 2017.
Second.
At the beginning of 2017, the board approved blanket purchase order for Northeastern Uniforms after analyzing the police department's purchase needs for the remainder of the year, taking into account promotions and new hires. We are requesting increase the blanket purchase order by $8,000. This request for blanket purchase order increase only. No changes are being requested to the 2017 police budget. Any board questions, comments? Seeing none.
Get the lieutenant's uniform.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Did Scotty turn his stuff in, or
Put Scott's uniform back.
you could put two guys in his uniforms? No? All right. Seeing no other questions, comments, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G5. Consider purchase of thermal image cameras.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of 3 complete FLIR-K65 thermal image camera packages and 4 vehicle-mounted chargers in the amount of $19,667 from Madison Electric Company in Warren, Michigan.
In September, the fire department, working with the finance department, solicited bids to purchase thermal image cameras and associated battery charging systems. 3 vendors submitted proposals, with Madison Electric Company of Warren, Michigan, quoting the lowest rate. The fire department is now requesting to purchase 3 FLIR K65 thermal image cameras packages and 4 vehicle-mounted chargers, totaling $19,667. Are there any questions for our team? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead, Josh.
If I may, I want to just clarify, late today, we did find out the deputy director was able to negotiate a better price with that company, so the price remains the same, but instead of 3 thermal image cameras, we're actually taking delivery of 6 thermal image cameras.
Well done.
So-
Thank you, sir. Wow, that's awesome.
I'm going to buy a car this month. Can you come with me, or get her to come with me? Yeah.
Okay, with that good news, does that require a modification of the motion?
Whoa, that's
Did we say how many we're going to buy, or we just say
Yeah,
how much we were
it's in
spending?
there. I'm-
okay. Well, we're not.
I
Mr.
can-
Supervisor, I withdraw my previous motion, and I would like to make a new motion. Would that be okay, Diane? Treasurer Regis Lavens?
Supported, okay, very good. Motion's been retracted. Do we have to vote on that, or?
No.
It's just, okay, it's been removed.
Mr.
so-
Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of as many complete FLIR/K65 thermal image camera packages and vehicle-mounted chargers as public safety deems necessary in an amount not to exceed $19,667 from Madison Electric Company in Warren, Michigan.
Well played. Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G6. Consider purchasing one-year service agreement for Motorola Dispatch Council.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the 2018 purchase of Motorola Solutions one-year service agreement for the 800 megahertz dispatch radio and E911 console equipment in the amount of $55,000.
Second.
Public Safety is requesting to purchase one-year service agreement from Motorola Solutions to cover the department's 800 megahertz dispatch radio and E911 console components, which falls out of warranty in December 31st, 2017. The functionality of this critical equipment deems it necessary to rely on 24-hour, 7-day-a-week responsive coverage for service calls, repairs and replacement of hardware to keep the dispatch and call center operating at peak performance. Motorola Solutions is offering a one-year service agreement for the cost of $55,000, which is budgeted in the 2018 E911 budget. Are there any questions from board or comments? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That concludes our formal business this evening. Do we have any? Is there any public comment? Seeing no public, I assume there's no public comment. Any board comments?
Director Myers here. Can you let us know what's happening with the meetings with CSX and the legislature, states? I mean, is CSX cooperating or about the trains?
So this afternoon, the supervisor and I met with CSX and other municipalities that are experiencing the same difficulties and problems that Canton Township has. We did get a bit of good news from CSX in that a rail crossing at Coppernick and Haggerty, and then a rail crossing on Joy Road, they installed what they call, their air compressors, essentially. And so what oftentimes happens is when that train stops and they have to disconnect or they have to reconnect, it takes them upwards of an hour to 2 hours to pressurize each one of those cars individually to release the brakes to move. What this will allow them to do is disconnect that train, open up the rail crossing, keep the train's air pressure up, reconnect, and then they're not blocking that road for extended periods of time. So that's the bit of good news, light at the end of the tunnel story. We're going to continue to work with CSX. We're going to continue to work with our federal legislators to address the situation, and we're also going to look at a local ordinance that would allow us maybe some enforcement action when that rail crossing is blocked for an extended period of time.
So do they give a date as to when they could start that, or they have to install something first?
It's already in. It's in as of 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago. About the same time the calls stopped coming into my office is when the compressors were up and running. We just didn't know about it. So we knew something had changed because calls stopped, which we all appreciated. So from the meeting, we discovered what we did. My office did get one call last Wednesday. It was a resident who said they were held up for 45 minutes. So I've asked my team to continue to document and track, start keeping a ledger of all the calls. We're looking at the Wayne County piece in terms of signage. We've discovered there's new information that could be added to a potential sign. Tim's a little nervous that Wayne County may not be supportive, so I may go after a private property that's adjacent to and ask for permission to put up a sign. So residents can call if they get hung up. Stabenow's office was there, two representatives out of Stabenow's office, and they took a lot of notes, and they didn't make any promises, but they said that they would take back everything they had heard, because the rail is owned and operated by the federal system. They control it. We don't have a whole lot of opportunity to influence their decisions. So there is a potential pain point that Josh discussed, which City of Livonia is taking lead on, writing ordinances that may or may not be enforceable, and we're trying to be creative, and there's going to be more work, and you'll see stuff coming at you in the coming weeks, so. Well, I'd love to take credit for it, and I'm sure Josh would too, but we don't. It was, if there's any credit to be given, what the CSX representative, and it was a hostile meeting on and off. It was not a group hug session on any level by any of the, between CSX and the communities. It was pretty contentious. What he did state, the reason that Canton Township got the compressors first was because of phone calls Josh made in September to CSX pushing, and then the follow-on support that came from other board members, yourself, Anne Marie, as well as residents pressuring them. The other pain point that they shared besides Josh was that Josh was actually first to make them aware before the Plymouth blew up, right? And so we're sitting there in this meeting today saying, wow, we feel good that, you know, things have lightened up for us. And then, like a whack-a-mole, the problem now is moved to Livonia. So it's a whole regional thing. Huron Township was there as well. So the fact that we were proactive and were loud and consistent with our voices from the residents, the board, and Josh doing what he does is why Canton, they did pay attention to Canton first. There is also a similar unit going on at Beck Road, or it's in and operational now at Beck Road. And they're looking at other potential bigger dollar solutions, such as changing the grade, you know, build a bridge so trains go over the road or under the road. But every community has a unique characteristic, and the other big thing that came out of it was a hopeful request that CSX would communicate with the communities when they know they're going to block things up. And I thought it was comical that they struggled with that concept. And they basically started out saying, we'd like the local communities to call us when we're locking you up. It's like, hold on, time out. And you working with Ford Motor Company in my last 38 years, Ford Motor Company knows exactly when a train's hung up and when the product's not going to be delivered. But see, we're not a customer, nor are the residents a customer. So they don't see it as a priority to communicate with us. CSX does not. So that's something that is going to be worked on. And I kind of got the sense that Pober out of the city of Plymouth was going to try to take lead on that communication piece. But we got to see notes that come out of it. So look for a lot of follow-up in weeks to come.
One more thing, we announced the planning commission, so Sue Dodson is stepping down, so her last day is December 4th. She's a longtime commissioner and has been cultural commission also. She's staying on the cultural commission, but she's stepping down from the planning commission, so if anyone wants to see her.
We'll be doing a formal resolution to present to her for her years of dedication, service to the community in the next, I think in our next board meeting.
We need to swear in all the new people that we appointed. Tim, just heads up.
Any additional board comments? None, any staff comments? Go ahead, Josh.
If I may, I now know Supervisor Williams saw the email. Safehome.org just recently did a comparison of communities, cities across the nation with 50,000 residents or more, and this was based off the FBI crime stats. I'm happy to report that Canton scored number 7, safest community in the state of Michigan, and 25th percentile over the top 101 nationwide, so it's good for Canton.
Comments? Oh, doesn't matter because we're sold out. The black market value of these breakfast with Santa tickets, don't even ask because you can't afford them. Nobody here can afford them. The
Free lighting,
free lighting as well.
next Wednesday, December
next
6th.
Wednesday. So got an action-packed week next week. And we also have SEMCOG coming in to share data on futuring. 7th, is that when? December 5th. 5th, yeah. So we've got a very full calendar next week. We're going to be busy. And then a study session as well.
Study session as well.
The board hasn't seen it yet, but what I'd like to do is a prelude to Leisure Services, who is going to kind of take the lead in terms of their draft strategic plan for 2018 as part of their accreditation process. They're going to go first and share with us, based on our strategy session, what they've come up with and develop and planning on doing next year. And it's going to be draft form, basically. So, but prelude to that is I'd like different board members to take one of the goals. There's 5 goals we established, and each of you sat on a group. So a very brief review of what those items were in our study session format, and then maybe at the end of that, come together with this is what we want to do next in terms of maybe a future, early next year study session to look at this, what we've already done, and if there's tweaks or adjustments or amendments to be made in concept. So that'll be next week's study session.
That's correct, December 5th.
Want us to do that during the meeting then, or?
Yeah, we'll actually do it during the meeting. And there's, if whatever goal number you worked on that sub-team, that will be your goal to present to the group. That's the plan right now. Okay. Very good. All right. Call for a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Those in favor, state aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.